Hey, you guys, I'm Dr. Sparky. I want to introduce you guys to Dr. Karolina.
Hi.
Hold on, let me get wet, bro.
He's going for the. He's like, if we only get one sponsor, it's gonna be.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right. So do I start?
Go for it.
It's up to you.
It's up to you, whatever you want.
Okay. So one of the biggest things that caused a really big shift in my life is self-love. I heard that before when I was younger. You should love yourself. It always kind of sounded cheesy to me, and to be honest, I had never really an idea what it really meant. And now to give you like a very short, brief summary of my life, I was born in Poland. My family came to Germany when I was 5 years old. I had a 1.5-year-old younger brother and a 1.5-year-old older sister. We came to Germany as kind of like refugees because there was communism in Poland, and people were like trying to get out. As soon as we got to Germany, my parents were working their asses off to get money to rebuild, because we really came with 2 suitcases and 3 little kids.
Wow.
And I guess growing up, I can tell you that I felt depressed, which I knew later on, because I didn't know at the time I was a child that depression would be pretty much dominating most of my life, unfortunately. I'm 41 years old, by the way, now. And it kind of like made a little change just a few years ago. So I felt depressed already when I was a child, and then I went through like different phases. I suffered from an eating disorder most of my life as a teenager. I had like anorexia.
What?
Yeah, I was in one relationship with a man that I married. He was addicted to gambling. He was treating me very poorly, gambled all my money away. I was with him for 8 years. The next relationship I got into was a guy that was addicted to alcohol. He treated me very badly. I was with him for 8 years. And he was actually the reason why I came to the United States from Germany. And that is where I think it all broke down. It was maybe like half a year before the pandemic. I was living with him here, and things got just kind of like worse and worse with his drinking. So I ended up really reaching like my mental maximum. I couldn't sleep. I had a really bad insomnia. I got very depressed. So it ended up, like happening that we split. And then I was all by myself, like alone. All my family was in Germany. My boyfriend was gone. And then the pandemic started, so we were working from home, and I really had not much social contact at all, and pretty much not a single friend here in the United States. And I feel like that was really the time, I would say, my lowest low, because every time I think you're going through a difficult phase, you're trying to distract yourself from these feelings that you don't want to deal with, or you're trying to cling to any other person, a friend or a lover, right? To kind of make you feel helped and supported and that you're not alone.
Substance.
Exactly, a substance, exactly. Yeah. And because due to the situation, how everything got created, I didn't have any of that. So it really forced me to feel what I feel and think about it. And I will not forget this one morning. I was really, really very, very depressed. It was really, really, really bad. I reached out to a friend who was not really a good friend. So I was trying to like hang out to distract myself, not be alone. But she couldn't make the time. And then I was laying in bed, honestly wishing I would be dead. Like I couldn't stand being alive, really. And then what happened is that I started having like memories about my life. Like my sister, how we were on like a family vacation on the beach in Italy, and all kinds of like school friends I was like hanging out with and having a great time and laughing and enjoying life. All the different like loves that came in my life and then disappeared again. I remember one memory, it's so insignificant, when this was when we were still in Poland. It was wintertime and it was snow, and me, my sister, my brother were like sitting on a sled, and my dad was just pulling us like on this little street in front of the house. And all these things popped into my mind. And for some reason, it made me really feel for the first time the value of my life. Like that my life is not about, you know, anybody else, any man I'm with, anything I need to be or I need to get to, I need to have. But it's really just my like little story from when I was little and all these little stories that I experienced going through it. So I really felt for the first time how valuable and precious that is. And I think in the context also of the breakup with my boyfriend, it was the first time where I started feeling actually empathy for myself. I felt sorry, not like self-pity, but I felt sorry for what I put myself through to allow someone to, you know, be so mean and like not treat me like that well. And this feeling that I had, this empathy, that was really, I think, the first time in my life where I guess, started feeling self-love. And that really changed like a lot in terms of how I treat myself, who I'm like, you know, hanging out with, who I have as friend, and also like how I guess, see my life and what I value in my life going forward. Yeah. And I guess I understand why I never develop that, because I think it's just due to the circumstances of how my parents, you know, kind of life was. They were both coming from families where there was a lot of drinking involved. I never met like my grandfathers because they died already from drinking.
Wow.
And I think my parents just never had time, you know, for us to be, I guess, like as loving and caring as you should be as a parent.
That's the
So
way
that your
society
child
is nowadays.
develops.
How they have it planned.
Exactly. Yeah. I actually, a year ago, 2 years ago at the university, working as a neuroscientist, I was involved in like a mental health group. And I was actually really honored. We were organizing an event and talking about like different aspects that are relevant for mental health. And I chose to talk about self-worth because that was like really like my thing. And in the progress of preparing that presentation, like I did a lot of research myself in like the psychological literature. And I was really, I don't know, it really made me realize how important this is in all our lives. And I really personally think that for most people, not all, but for most people, I think this is the root of a lot of their issues that they're struggling in with life. And is it like, you know, being in bad relationships? Is it like being, you know, addicted to something? Or just not being happy because you're addicted to like work or to like validation from other people, you know? Like in the literature, one thing I remember what it said, it calls it a contingent self-worth. Means that most of us make our self-worth dependent on an external thing, right? Some people take their work, right? Oh, I have to be like the best in my job. And if you feel that, then you consider yourself a valuable person. Some people, as I mentioned, like really rely or need to have this validation from their social environment. So they try to be nice to everyone to, you know, be able to say, oh, I have so many friends. And then they feel like special and worthy. A big one for women is actually their visual appearance. A lot of women, right, define their self-worth through how they look. And to be honest, looking backwards, I think that was why I suffered from the eating disorder. Because as I mentioned, I didn't have self-worth all my life. I had depression and an eating disorder. And I think it was just, that was looking nice or being attractive was kind of like a way that made me feel special because I didn't feel it myself, like internally.
And so that negative self-consciousness or that imbalance showed up in the form of a eating disorder, or?
I think not just an eating disorder. I think the eating disorder for sure. Definitely in terms of my relationships too, because I think nowadays, I would never get again into a relationship with a guy that doesn't treat me how I should be treated. And how should I be treated? I should be treated by a man like how I like to treat myself.
One,
Kind.
one
Caring.
also too, you know, now like the effects of certain chemicals and foods on, and that was one of the things that I really was so intrigued about you that you were talking about, because you're so passionate about your diet right now due to what happened to you with the vaccine.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about what happened with you and your involvement in the medical industry and like everything you were telling me?
So I would say that was the second, let's say, milestone that like made a major shift in my life. So I was, from all I can think, I was a researcher. I actually started out with studying psychology because now actually looking back, it's kind of funny, but as I just mentioned, I suffered from an eating disorder and depression. So clearly I realized very early that mental health is very important. So I wanted to research it. So I gained a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in psychology. And then because, you know, I found all of that very fascinating and I got a little bit in touch with neuroscience during my studies, I pursued a PhD in neuroscience. And after my PhD, I got invited to work at UC Irvine, first as a postdoc, and then as a project scientist, a researcher. So most of my like adult life, I have been in research pretty much, right? And, you know, the research was very focused on the brain, neuroscience, right? And I don't know how to, so the brain, it's like the matter, right? You look at different regions and what they are doing for our health and how they enable certain type of behaviors and memory and so on. Now, let's just put this aside. So when the pandemic started, at some point the university made the COVID vaccine mandatory. I didn't want to take it. As a researcher, I spent a lot of time looking at like the research papers on like, you know, like COVID, I guess, immunity and things like that. And at that time already a lot of stuff was published showing that obviously when you had COVID already, you will have a natural immunity built up. I had COVID already at that time twice. I was fine after that. And I just didn't see any reason why I should expose, you know, my health at that risk to take a vaccine that was just very recently developed. But then later on, like this was going for like pretty much, I think, 2 years. My boss was very supportive in trying to help me prevent taking it. But at the end, my back was pretty much against the wall and like I had to take it or I would be suspended. And also because I was on a visa here from Germany, that would mean to me that I have to go back to Germany, which was a little bit, you know, it was very stressful, to be honest, during that time because things were kind of crazy everywhere in the world. My parents were like telling me, hey, like don't come back, stay where you are. Things are even worse in Germany. So I ended up making a very, very poor decision and I took the first shot of the vaccine. And after that, it all started really like 3 days after the first shot. I started experiencing a variety of health issues. And these health issues would really go over like the past 1.5 years pretty much. I had like a heart condition called ventricular tachycardia that started like 5 days after I took the vaccine. My hair was falling out. For a woman, this was like really devastating. So I developed joint pain in all my joints in my body, like literally everywhere. I was in pain all the time. I couldn't peel an orange for myself. I couldn't hold my coffee cup in the morning. Later on, it turned out that it was probably some kind of autoimmune disorder that was triggered by the vaccine. I had an anaphylaxis. I had to go to the ER twice for that. Just woke up in the morning with like a rush all over my body. And then like, I guess my tongue was swelling and like my roommate drove me to the ER. And obviously like with all the joint pain, I was in a lot of pain for a very long time. I'm a dancer. I do ballet, which is really my passion. And I'm like doing weightlifting at the gym. I was not able to do any of that because of these health issues. So I got obviously very depressed. And I think, I have never been in my life to so many doctors as I had to during this time. But unfortunately, it was actually not very helpful. And I think that was definitely the first time where I realized that modern medicine did not have much to offer for me. And so I think this was the time where I started to be a little bit open-minded and I started deviating from this very rigid view of like a neuroscientist, like, oh, I only, believe what there is like research on and what we can measure and what is already discussed and kind of out there. And I started opening up a little bit more towards other, I guess, topics or healing methods, right? That are not maybe like that well known, because I think they're not very much like spread, because the big pharma cannot make money with that. I went to an energy healer. That was a really, really crazy experience. Crazy. I guess what I realized going to all these alternative medicines in general is that modern medicine has it wrong, very wrong, in the sense that they completely reduce a human being to like the matter, right? Like they think our bodies are like machines, right? And like for everything what is broken, there is a pill that they offer you and you take, right? But I realized by going through what I went through is that this is not true. And it neglects, I guess, a very important part of us being humans, which is our mind and how powerful our mind is. So I want to share with you this experience regarding this pain that I had. So it ended up being, I guess, a chronic pain. I went to so many doctors. I did physical therapy for a year. I went to a chiropractor for half a year. I went to sports medicine doctors that took x-rays, they took MRIs. They were like trying to find in the images what could be causing, for example, my knee pain or my shoulder pain. They wanted to give me injections into my knees. The rheumatologist wanted to put me on immune suppressive medication. Again, thinking that my pain is caused by this autoimmune disorder. What ended up happening is that what I was suffering from was TMS. It's called tension myositis syndrome, which I came across on the internet after my chiropractor recommended me to read a book. And this TMS, what it pretty much says is that the pain, the chronic pain, is caused by mental processes, because chronic pain and acute pain are processed in the brain very differently. And chronic pain is caused by psychological processes. And once I realized this, I found a doctor in LA who treated me with really psychological measures like, journaling, right? My pain went away within 2 weeks. That was really, really very, very crazy experience. I would not believe if someone would else tell me that story, but because I experienced it myself, I was really blown away as a scientist. And I think after all these years of being in neuroscience and studying the brain or reducing human beings and their health just to what's happening in their brains, I realized I kind of made a full circle, and it brought me back to psychology, actually. Because I realized that the contribution of our mind is having, I don't know, like a very, very significant impact on our health. Yeah. I don't know if that answered the question. I feel like I was trying to squeeze in so many information in what I experienced, but really this blew my mind. And when I was actually, after I kind of like opened up my mind more, and I was kind of like more aware how our mind like contributes to our health, I really realized that lifestyle is a crucial aspect also in any kind of chronic diseases, including Alzheimer's disease. So there was actually so much literature out on how depression increases your risk for Alzheimer's disease. There is so much literature on the more traumatic experiences you have in your life, including like traumatic experiences as a child for like emotional neglect or abuse, for example, increases your risk for Alzheimer's disease. Obviously, diet, exercise, stress in general. I think the problem is really in this society that we live now, most of it, we are surrounded by gigantic companies that have a lot of money, that can influence a lot of things, that bombard us with advertisements, that decide what food we see in the supermarket, right? That decide what we see when we turn on the TV. and it's toxic. I don't think that we human beings were meant to live like this. And I feel like everyone is stuck in this rat race of living the life that is like dictated to us by these big rich companies to, you know, work your ass off, right? So that you help them get more money and get richer. Eat that crappy shit food that they produce so that they can make money, pop their shitty pills that they produce to make more money.
Yeah.
But I think as a fairly educated person with a lot of life experience, although I'm only 41, I learned that, I don't know, the only right way to be healthy is to be in balance and take care of your mind and body. Meaning, get good sleep, eat healthy, relax, don't allow all the stress to come to you, don't work your ass off. Right? Yeah, eat healthy. Did I mention eat healthy? Go outside, exercise, and then you are going to be healthy. Yeah, yeah.
This message was brought to you by Dr. Karoline and Rainbow Sky and Dr. Sparky. I knew that this was going to be beautiful, and I just want to take a moment to say thank you. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You know, in life, if we could only learn to appreciate things as if they were our last. And like one thing I've learned about nature is like things don't last forever in nature. Like things come and they go. The elderberries come and then they're gone, and they don't come all the way until next year. And I think sometimes we get so wrapped up in life we forget to be present and enjoy the present, and then all these problems end up happening, and we are constantly trying to remember and trying to get back to who we truly really are, right? We have these traumatic events, we get vaccinated, we have traumatic relationships, and it destabilizes us and it shakes us up and it takes us away from who we are. And the way that I found myself and reconnected to myself was through nutrition. Because as a child, I was exposed to high amounts of toxicity. I grew up in LA next to the 101 freeway. And they sprayed malathion in our neighborhood when I was very young, and my mom had a miscarriage. And I got so sick that they almost had to take me to the hospital. And now Americans were very uneducated, right? So one of the things that's really killing everybody is all these bad habits that's being passed down from our ancestors, whether it's alcohol or food or a lot of different things, you know, lifestyles, all these things. So I got fed like a good amount of Campbell's soup, which has a high amount of MSG in it. And this classic combo of fat, salt, and sugar is deadly. It's extremely addicting. And one thing I've noticed about a lot of people from Europe is that when they come to America, they don't realize what they're getting themselves into. I knew a woman that was, she's actually 53 now, and you remind me a lot of her. And she moved here from Denmark. And she had some seriously traumatizing relationships with men. Some terrible issues, right? And then she's stuck here, same issue as you, no family members, like trying to figure out what to do. And one of the ways that we really connected was through nutrition. We fell in love at a farmer's market. And I think that's what, you know, really held space for us to connect, was that we met in nature. It was peaceful. It was relaxing. I was so honored that you came over and talked to me.
You know, going on like nutrition, I mentioned that I was suffering from an eating disorder. I think it started when I was like 13 or 14. And I honestly think it's going to be always kind of an issue, but it's, you know, I guess I learned to live with it, and I would not consider myself having a eating disorder at this point anymore. But I think that is what actually triggered my focus on nutrition though, right? Because obviously when I was younger and the eating disorder started, I was really just, I feel fat, looking in the mirror, having this, you know, body image issues. And I was trying to not eat and not have any calories, to be skinny. But obviously once I went through that phase, I think what really helped me was exercise, actually. Because at some point, I remember I had these two best friends, Andy and Thomas, and they, you know, we were always like hanging out. They were like neighborhood guys, right? And we were like really best friends, always hanging out. And they took me at some point to the gym. They started to get into like this gym phase, and they took me to the gym. And I loved it. Like, I think I think it's like it's in me. I was born with this. I love dancing. I love exercise. This is really my passion in my life. And so I discovered this kind of through them when they started taking me to the gym. And I feel like that helped me shift my diet, because now I was like, well, I need these calories. I need nutrition to fuel my body, to get me strong, to help my muscles to grow, right? And that was the time where I started to think about diet, right? Because until then, I knew just everything how I was raised, right? My parents also bought cereals for us, cereals, right? That you eat, which is filled with sugar, right? And unhealthy stuff. For drink, we would have Fanta, Coca-Cola, and like all that stuff.
Was the dairy raw?
No. Like a lot of processed food, a lot of candy, sugar, bad fat. And then once I started going into working out, I started to think about diet more. And I started reading up. I started look for alternative information on the internet. And like, it blew my mind. I remember I had this one phase where I don't know how to explain this. I was so stressed out in like this panic mode, because I was like, you can't literally eat anything. Like everything that is sold is like, poison with some kind of stuff. There are like toxins in it, all these chemicals, all these additives, right? The water, like, okay, what do I do? Tap water, plastic bottle water, like there is no good alternative, right? I realized over the years that as I got older, like this is also not a good way of like living, because then you're so stressed that that's not healthy either, right? So you have to find a balance. But I guess what I'm trying to say is this eating disorder and then making a shift to working out is what actually made me think more about diet, read up, learn about it, realize how bad it is, and like start looking for, really like searching, right? Searching with a magnifying glass for like the right products in the supermarket that are not too bad, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And since then, I have to say I don't want to say I'm on a strict diet, but most people would say so. Like I do eat only organic food. Although I am aware that certified organic means different things in different countries. I'm a little bit, worried and skeptical. The USDA certification here in the US, what that really means. I don't eat any added sugar. Like the only sugar I have is from fruits, dates and carbohydrates, brown rice, potatoes, whole wheat pasta, like all that stuff.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm not a vegan. I do eat meat and fish, but also only organic or like wild caught fish.
Good for you. It shows.
Because I work out, so I do need that protein in my opinion. Yeah. So I have been like on that exercise, health, and a healthy diet trip for, let's say, since I was 16, probably.
Wow.
Yeah. And honestly, like for example, the diet change. I remember at the beginning it was quite hard, right, to cut the sugar.
Yeah.
I was a really big tea drinker, and like drinking my tea without sugar, it tasted like bitter, like not good. And I was like looking for alternative sweeteners that are like natural, like plant-based, but it wasn't like really the same. It was like too sweet. But over the years, it's like a detoxing, right? Like what I mean is when you actually look into the research, sugar acts like it changes receptors on your tongue for like processing sweetness, right? And it acts on your brain like cocaine in terms of like the addictive potential, right? And when you eat like 90% of the food throughout the day with sugar in it, right? You will be constantly on this addicted, like trip, right? And like as soon as, 1 hour or 2 hours pass, you need the next sugar kick, right? Once you cut it out completely, it was difficult for a few months. But now, like, I'm not even craving it. Like, I'm not searching for replacing certain things, And like, really, I would have a cake once a year, like on a birthday or like New Year's Eve, and I most of the time don't enjoy it actually now anymore,
right?
Because
Once you
it's
get
too
away.
sweet. It's too sweet, really.
The same thing happened to me with alcohol. Now that I've stopped drinking, I cannot enjoy it anymore.
Yeah. And you eat carrots, peas, bell peppers. They're so sweet. Like I never noticed it before.
It just goes to show how these are like not really who we are. These are just tendencies and habits that are being passed down and programmed into us.
Exactly.
And then once we move those aside and remove those, then we get to actually experience the true beautiful bliss that we are. And like one thing that blocked me from really finding my power, finding my way, being strong in my choices and decisions as a child was my diet. And I was so aware of it at 18 when I hit rock bottom from using 2 drugs, but that's too late. Most people shouldn't have to get to that point. I started speaking out. I was very outspoken and I was very conscious and I was very just alive and wild as a child. And most children are so unique and so talented, and they just do not fit in the box of commercial society. Like the standard American diet doesn't work for most people. You know, like it destroyed you. It destroyed your ability to be able to feel comfortable in your own body. For me, created lots of mental issues, created lots of physical issues. And until I woke up to the fact that that was it, my life did not change. We tried everything. They medicated me at 13 years old with medical methamphetamines. And what a lot of people don't understand is that that is like the ultimate worst thing you could do for children with ADHD, because most children with ADHD are addicted to sugar. They're eating too much sugar, and that's why their attention, they're having trouble paying attention deficit, and they're hyperactive. They're overstimulated. So that was one of the main diagnoses they gave me, but it wasn't right. And like you said, a lot of these diagnoses, they don't mean shit, and they're basically made to sell drugs. So after they medicated me and it spun me out even more, I came to the realization that like, fuck, they have no idea what they're doing. So I'm going to medicate myself. Right. And I was lucky enough to be able to have access to marijuana at that time. And that became a huge part of my healing journey. But the reason being is because it's actually natural and it's connected to the earth. And there's a lack of natural organic resources that we have available to us as people, which I think is what makes what you do so amazing. It's like, even if somebody can't get access to clean, healthy food, they can work on changing the way they think. They can work on changing their lifestyle. And then that can inspire them to change their diet.
What I would like to say, you mentioned, for example, that you hit rock bottom when you were 18 and that, you know, it was kind of late and you wish it would be earlier. I think what I realized is that, so we're born in this into this society, and everyone just keeps doing what everyone is doing, right? Like it's part of the society, right? And I feel like it does need some kind of crisis, something that's like really heavy and very, very difficult, that like, you know, throws you on the ground. And then I think this is what forces people then to, I don't know, take actually some time and look around. Like, where am I? What is happening around me? Like, how is my life, right? Where do I live in terms of like my environment, right? And I think it's the crisis that actually then causes changes, where like people start recognizing, you know, what is going wrong. Is it the diet? Is it the, you know, being a workaholic? Is it the, you know, I don't know, being stuck in an office for 10, 12 hours per day, that like is actually not healthy and good for you, right? Like I also feel like I mentioned the self-worth, right, as like really a very huge discovery for me in my life. And I think this is all connected to how I try to live my life now. And it's honestly, it's not even that I try to live it. I live it like that because I feel like this is the only thing that feels right, right? So when I have self-worth, it means I love myself. I love my body. I'm very grateful and appreciate for my body, right? Because it allows me to do all the things that I love to do in my life. It allows me to do ballet. It allows me to go to the gym and lift heavy weights. It allows me to go on a great hike with my dog, right? And I want to keep this body healthy, and because I value it so much, I want to take care of it. And how do I take care of it? I take care of it by paying a lot of attention what I feed it, right? By making sure I get enough rest, I get enough sleep, by exercising, right? And taking care of my mind. Exactly.
Speaking lovingly to your mind.
Exactly.
Noticing when you have negative things or when stuff comes up. Is it a person? Is it a place? Is it a food? Is it a environment? What is it? Right? Like just loving you and valuing you more. And within that, becoming more aware of the environment around you, how that's affecting you. And realizing that it's not you.
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah.
I think it's such a beautiful epiphany that I came to when I switched my diet. I was like, wow, all these traumatic experiences that I've been experiencing are due to that was my diet.
Mm-hmm.
That was, I mean, that was a beautiful moment and awakening and realization and shift in my life when I finally was able to connect my trauma with my diet and forgive myself for the mistakes that I had made, the inability to control myself, whatever kind of issues I was experiencing while I was going through that, through my realization that it was connected to food, and then being able to like start to hold myself accountable and really become diligent about what I was doing with my diet, and instantly everything changed right away.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it can be that small. It can be just one little thing.
Mm-hmm.
It could be the way we talk to ourselves.
Right.
It could be the way that we walk. Health and well-being does not have to it doesn't have to be difficult. And like you were saying, if you try to change everything all at once, it doesn't work.
Yeah. And also, like related to that is the fact that, so a lot of people, I mentioned that to you too at the hot springs, like say, oh, the mind-body like connection, the mind-body connection, right? And I mentioned, like, I personally don't see there is a connection. I see it more like the mind is part of the body, right? For me as a neuroscientist, I believe the mind is somewhere located in our brain, and the brain is part of our body, right? But I definitely also realized throughout the last years, especially in my life, as I also mentioned, I've been suffering from depression. I had a lot of depressive episodes throughout my life. And I realize now, because of it being one, is that, yeah, like if I don't feed my body properly, I would, for example, as I mentioned, when I had my eating disorder, I would literally starve myself. And of course, that affected my feelings and my mood, and I was feeling depressed, right? When I work too much and I don't take a lot of like rest and break, and I allow all the stress to get into my head and I stress myself out, that then messes my sleep up, right? So I'm tired, I'm exhausted. That affects my mood. I start feeling immediately depressed, right? So it's all one. And yeah, when you take care of your body, you're automatically taking care of your mind. And at the same time, you can also take care the other way around. Take
When
care of
you
your
take care of
mind, will take care of your body. Exactly.
I love that. I love that.
I love, in one documentary, there was like a guy who was kind of like trying to demonstrate how our mind affects like physiological processes in our body. And he gave the following example, and it really stuck in my head. I was like blown away. It's very simple. Imagine you're at your house. You're sitting on the couch in your living room. You get up, you go to the kitchen, to the refrigerator. You open the refrigerator. Oh, there is a lemon. You take the lemon out, you cut it in half, you bite into it. When you really imagine it, you feel the saliva being produced in your mouth, right?
That's cool.
And I feel like this is like the, right? Like it's very simple, but
I taste it.
it's crazy how it demonstrates how powerful our mind is, right? Yeah.
Delicious, dude.
Yeah.
That's a good lemon.
Yeah.
Is it a Meyer? What kind of lemon is it?
Yes, it's a Myers lemon.
I love Meyer lemons. They're so juicy.
So I feel like, I guess before I already recognized the importance of diet and exercise on my health. But I feel like the last years, what I have been going through, I realized the mental aspect, like the mind, right? Like way more so than like ever before. And it's really like you realize, and I mentioned that to you too, right? Like, what is reality, right? Now we're not really philosophical. What is reality? We're sitting here on this rock and we're having this conversation, right? Now, I'm sure in your head, you have a different reality than I do, right? Because what happens is we are sitting in this beautiful environment, right? But any information that comes into your body is through your brain. And your brain, again, as I believe, is where your mind sits. So you're thinking, right? You're filtering. So you are actually creating the environment in your brain. And this is your reality, right? That is, I think, why two people could potentially experience exactly the same situation, but one person could really struggle, be very stressed out, and have a very hard time, and someone else could potentially be like very relaxed and calm. It's what you do in your head, right? And that is, again, having a really, really strong influence on what's happening inside your body.
See, that makes me think too, and like one thing I've learned is that for myself, when I eat certain types of food, I lose control of my thoughts. I lose control of my ability to be able to regulate my thoughts. Like for instance, when I was eating toxic food, I couldn't believe in myself. I sometimes not dark feelings or thoughts would come over me and I couldn't get over it. I couldn't stop them. I had nightmares so bad that I tried to go to therapy for them. I had a negative reflection of myself. I had a lack of self-confidence, and I also I had self-doubt. And this was later on I realized strictly coming from my diet, because I knew deep down there was a deep inner strength in me that was pure, that was strong, that was true, that was good, but it would it would get affected. It would come and it would go. It wasn't consistent. And one thing that kept me healthy was exercise. I was very physical, so that's definitely something that kept me healthy as a kid. And also just my heart. I knew as a child just to be loving. I knew when I came into this world, I knew I was meant to help people, to love people. I had very loving parents. I was very blessed. Even though my diet was shit, our mindset was good. The heart, it came a lot from the heart.
Yeah.
You know, talking about the mind and the mind being connected to the body, I also, for me, one big thing is spirit. And like, one thing I've realized is that this is a body that I'm getting to experience and be a part of, and this body is going to die, but my spirit's going to live on forever. And I've had so many different experiences with plant medicine, life, where I literally thought I was going to die. Relationships that put me through so much stress and trauma, I felt like I was dying. To some extent, parts of me have died, and I have let them die. And I think that's something that we've been disconnected from and that we forget to embrace in this life, is death. We all become so accustomed to just being disconnected from death. We don't see our animals get killed. We don't harvest our produce. When we're being distracted and deceived by modern day society into thinking that we can get away with living certain ways, eating certain things, not having to really take care of our bodies. And I'm very grateful for you speaking and telling the people about what you went through, because it's very inspiring seeing how beautiful you are, how young you look, and hearing about what you've been through, and the fact that you're giving hope to people and you're giving inspiration to people that are really suffering right now, and that I'm a part of that. That makes me feel really good.
But it's hard, you know? I guess what I feel very often is I feel like I'm in the wrong place, because and it doesn't matter where I go, really. I feel like everything is so, excuse my language, fucked up around us that I have a very hard time finding a right place where I feel comfortable to be. When I look around how people around me live their lives, how they work, what they eat, what they do to themselves, I think it's crazy. And I think it's crazy that they don't see that. But again, maybe they need a crisis in order to get out of this, right? Does it affect me? In some ways, yes, because it's very hard for me to feel like I belong somewhere. I feel always kind of like an outsider, right? Because I feel I have different values, right? For example, for my job, I can tell you, I don't want to work 5 days a week. I'm sorry. I would like 4 days a week, because I want more time to enjoy my life and to rest and to go outside and enjoy the nature and do hikes and whatever, right? Now, most people around me work 10 hours, 5 days a week, and on the weekend on top of that, right? What do I do on the weekend? I'm telling you what I'm doing on the weekend. I wake up, I go to my ballet class, I come back, I have a great big lunch filled with full healthy food, and then I take my baby out for a nice little hike into the nature, right? And Sunday I do the same thing. Weekend is not for running chores, work, all this stuff. It's for having fun and moving, being active, right? Now, how many adult people at the age of 41 are spending their weekends like this?
That's a good question.
I don't know, but the people that I know I feel weird. You know what I mean? I feel like something is wrong with me. Like I miss to grow up, or
I see what you're saying.
I'm not like serious enough about my life, or like I'm a loser. Maybe I should be taking my work more serious. I don't know. But to me, really, I don't, and I like the saying a lot. I don't work to live. I don't live to work. I work to live, right? And even if it sounds fancy, I'm a neuroscientist, a researcher. Wow, what a career! Right? Honestly, this was never my intention, right? Like, I wasn't like a career-driven person. I just followed, I guess, my interest. Until now, I feel I kind of hit a, how do you call this? Like a road that ends.
Dead end.
Like a dead end.
Nice.
Yeah, because I also don't feel like I belong to that kind of community. It's again, they don't see what I see, you know, in terms of how human beings should be studied, in terms of diseases like Alzheimer's disease. I mean, I'm not gonna like lie, there is a little bit of research on like lifestyle factors and how that contributes, but it's not really a very heavy chunk of the research because there is not a lot of money. I mean, who can make money if you would tell people, do you know how you can avoid to get dementia when you're later old? Eat healthy, avoid stress, get enough sleep, and exercise. Who can make money with this? And also, who wants to do that? This is way harder than just popping a pill that Big Pharma can offer to you, right? Yeah.
Wow, you are nailing it, sister.
Like sometimes really, like, especially during the pandemic, you just look around, like all the craziness, and I want to just move to the rainforest, live with orangutans or something. Like,
Why not? Let's get you there.
Remove from this like crazy society, really.
I really want this to be a way for people to be able to connect to you wherever you are so that you help them. You're so inspiring, you're so uplifting. Like I am so glad that I am awake at this time, that I stopped drinking alcohol so that I could make you feel safe enough to be able to come out here and videotape this content. And I think that's something that's really, truly missing in the world right now. It's unconditional love. And I really just want to be a conduit of that for you and a lot of other people. And I want people to realize that they are safe within like their diet. That's what's really gonna help people, because when we eat out of balance, we don't value ourselves, we don't appreciate ourselves enough, and it just leads to all different kinds of problems. I'm just really excited to bring more healthy people like yourself around to continue to just shed light on, you know, especially diet is a big one, because I've seen a lot of people fool themselves into thinking that like their mind is more powerful than the food. Like, oh, like a lot of the new age hippies are like, oh, you just need to be positive. You just pray over the food and it changes it.
Right.
Well, to some extent, that is true.
Right.
You know, there's water in the food, so that being grateful, chewing your food properly, all these little things help a lot. But at the end of the day, it's getting to the point where the food is so toxic that we need to learn to respect the toxicity and educate ourselves to understand the fact that it's not even worth it.
Yeah.
Because right now, the amount of detriment that we're experiencing due to the substances and the environments and the lifestyles that we're exposing ourselves to outweighs the benefits. And people are being tricked into living in cities, driving cars, talking on cell phones. All of this shit is rapidly depleting our health, our well-being.
But also benefits. One other thing that I kind of like came to realize. So food, right? You mentioned like how it's toxic.
Right.
I mean, what it should.
Environment.
Yeah, but what it should. Why do we eat, right? It should be in the first place to nourish our bodies, right? To give us
For
vitamins and nutrients,
For
right?
survival.
Yeah, for survival. But I think what a lot of people nowadays do is they use food to fill a hole, to like, you know, a source of making them happy, right? Like with all the junk food and pizza and hamburgers and sugar and all that stuff, right? Because in my opinion, again, people just get it wrong. They're like part of this rat maze and just go for the money, looking for things that they believe will make them happy. But once they gain them, they might be happy for like a couple days or a couple weeks, and then it goes back to where it was before. and then they want more and more and more. And I feel like this is obviously a system that I do believe is promoted a lot by these big companies that make a lot of money. Because again, what would happen if everyone would stop working? What would happen? No one works, no one pays taxes, no one buys things, right? This whole system would crash, like nothing would be able to function, right? So there is, of course, interest in making people be part of that system and feed into it, right? But again, I think living your life by feeding into it is not the right way. And I think not the right way is not maybe the right way to say it. Is not good for us. Is not healthy for us. And then yeah, we're not doing well. We're not doing good. We have problems. We have traumas. And then we're like, reaching out for everything we can to make ourselves feel good. Is it substances and drugs? Is it food, right? Is it, I don't know, work achievements?
Yeah, though, and like what a lot of people don't understand right now is, and what a lot of people are being deceived into, is thinking that they need money more than they need health. And this is one of the biggest things that I'm seeing right now, right? It's like money is losing its value. Like she said, like all these things that we base our lives around are becoming less and less valuable. A car can't save your life with the toxins that we're dealing with right now. Like no matter how much money you have, if you're exposing yourself to certain amounts and levels of toxicity, it is outweighing the benefits. Our environment and our lifestyles are becoming so toxic that it's not worth it anymore. And we need to learn to value things beyond like material, and we need to learn to reconnect to the true essence of who we really are, the value of who we really are. And the way that I found that and got back to that was my food. The food helped me remember how valuable I am. The food helped me remember everything I've been through. The food helped me remember all the trauma I went through with my parents. The food helped me remember why I came here as a star child and a star being. And because of the food, I'm constantly connected to love and God and light. And it enabled me to be brave enough to reach out to somebody like yourself. I think a lot of people don't even open up to the healing because of the trauma that they're experiencing. And it's funny because food is so spiritual. Like if you don't eat food that has sunlight in it, you literally get possessed by the devil. And I've had to work so hard at training myself to only consume light food, God food, so that people like yourself can feel safe enough to open up, to talk, to share, to receive. And I think that people, if they could only realize what a huge opportunity they have and a huge responsibility and honor and a diligence that we all have here as people to represent nature, to give back to this earth in whatever way we do that, whether it's through artwork, our voice, education, just physical service, whatever it may be. I think everybody's lacking purpose, and I found mine through nutrition. You found yours through your exercise, your practice, your lifestyle, what you're doing for people. That's why I brought you on camera, was because it's rare that I meet somebody that's as passionate as you are, as educated, as kind, as generous. And I really want to support you in being able to do what it is that you do, because what you do is so valuable. And if we had only known that earlier, right? Like if we wouldn't have been blinded by that from our environments and our diets and our lifestyle and our trauma, we would be much further right now. But
you said giving back to nature, and I have to say I kind of disagree, because I think it's not about, although it sounds nice, but we don't even have to work so hard to give something back to nature. I think it's when you're like in balance with nature in how you live the life, then you're living like a good life, good for you. Like it will make you feel good. You know what I mean?
oh, that's beyond enough, and that's totally worth enough.
I know, like we can't talk about quantum physics, and it's not that I'm like that educated, I can like give you details from. But the idea is, I mean, it's all from, we come from the same, right? It all started at some point from once. All the energy is connected, and we come from the same. There is a reason why you feel so relaxed when you take a walk in a forest, right? Or you just sit on like a river and watch the water flowing, as opposed to going into a super crazy busy stadium where there was a baseball game. I don't know what makes you feel more in peace with yourself and more relaxed. For me, it's definitely the first one.
So cute.
Delicious.
Thank you so much, Rainbow Sky.
Yeah,
This would not be possible without Rainbow Sky. If you guys need a solid guy, you need Rainbow Sky.
Oh,
All right, that's an end right there.